wonder what's in here.
Something tells me you ain't here punching tickets.
What an introduction that is for the bounty hunter John Cooper, the protagonist of Desperados 3, which surprisingly is a prequel, which is something you don't really see. So the third numbered installment of the franchise, but it's actually a prequel to the first two games. But yeah, welcome to this video of Desperados 3. This is going to be the first full level in the game, so we're going to run you through it from beginning to end. You're going to see some skips in between because there was a lot of deaths on my side, but you're also it's quite a long level as well. It took me around about half an hour on my first playthrough to get through this first section, so I really had to kind of cut and splice it up a little bit, but it'll give you a full feel for, you know, kind of what a full level of Desperados 3 looks like, and also give you an idea of the kind of like the amount of trials and tribulations you have to go through to get through it. So as you've seen here, I've just actually thrown a knife at this guy, so I'm actually going back to collect my knife. This is actually a really important thing, that John has to go and collect his knife once he's thrown it, because if he doesn't do that, then obviously then he doesn't have that to throw at another enemy. So it's quite an important thing to remember with this. John also has, as you can see there on the top left, he's also got a coin which he can throw at enemies to kind of distract them. So when you flip a coin, it actually makes a noise on the ground, but he can also use that for other elements as well. So he can actually flick it at a horse and get the horse to actually, you know, kick backwards, which can actually be a way to actually kill an enemy as well, which is quite effective, quite a fun strategy. Desperados 3 is a tough, very rewarding game. You know, I did find that there's also about 25-hour campaign here. There's also some Baron challenges which you can mix up the additional levels in the game to really keep things fresh and different. But John, as you're about to see as well, also has some guns as well which he can use, and he's going to need it to get himself out of this situation to help the people that are, you know, trapped behind this rock here. John now has access to the gun, so you go on your track wheel there, you aim and shoot, and there you go. But obviously there's the difference here, as you've seen here, because I've shot a bullet now, it's actually alerted another guard, so this guard is going to come and react to the noise. Noise is so important here in Desperados 3, so I've obviously had to kill him off as well, but noise is such a crucial part of that, and that's why I used the knife in the first instance. And it's often best case to actually just use a knife, or to go up and actually stab an enemy from behind rather than use a gun, which immediately makes it different from the other big Wild West game that you probably know of, Red Dead Redemption, which is all guns blazing. And that's kind of what separates Desperados 3, but it gives another take on the Wild West. But it's an interesting, fun take, and one that I've really quite enjoyed, you know, going through. Also, there's an option to keep quick saving, so if you're playing this on PlayStation 4 like I did, you can just literally tap the touchpad on your controller, and you can quick save whenever you want. Obviously, you're going to have to get used to the fact that your characters are going to die a lot, so if that's going to be really annoying to you, then this probably isn't the game for you, because there's going to be a lot of trial and error. But yeah, this is a top-down tactical shooter. Now, you can see here as well, you can also dual shot with your gun as well, which is quite a fun, satisfying thing when it comes off. And you can use something called a showdown mode, which I'm also going to show you in a little bit. But yeah, essentially, so you can, in this situation, I'm entering showdown mode, which basically slows down time. Then you can aim at one enemy and then aim at the other. And then when you press triangle to execute, there you go, I've shot both of them down immediately, so that's wiped both of those out. Double shot, meaning neither of them has time to react to the one gunshot, and you can move straight back onto the next section, which is that's a really cool thing about Desperados 3, is that there's always a unique way to get through each situation, and there's always a tactical advantage you can have over your opponents. But as I said, this is a top-down tactical shooter. You have to study your opponent's movements very, very carefully. What they'll have is these big green like cone shapes coming out of them, which, you know, people who've played strategy games before will be quite familiar with. If you played Metal Gear before, you'll be quite familiar with. Basically, it's their line of sight. And if you enter that line of sight, then obviously you open yourself up to be spotted. But there are actually breaks in between that line of sight where you can kind of make breakthroughs. So you can kind of, like, for instance, the line of sight's been obstructed by a barrel of hay, or it's been obstructed by, you know, a box or something like that. You could hide behind that box and still not be seen, but get even closer to the enemy that you're trying to attack or confront. So it's quite a clever way, and you have to really study that carefully to make sure you're finding yourself in the best positions in each situation. And you could shoot yourself through. You could shoot your way through these games as you know, you do have a gun, as you can see, but you're probably not going to be better for it, because you obviously, A, you're making a lot of noise, and B, as you see, it actually triggers an alarm system, and that alarm system brings a lot of reinforcements, and those reinforcements are pretty overwhelming. So the game is really not designed to shoot your way through. So I mean, that in of itself is probably going to be quite a surprise to Western fans who think, you know, it's all about using guns akimbo. It's a different approach, but it still feels very fresh, enjoyable, and there's a decent story tying all this together as well. Again, it's kind of like a redemption arc, which seems to be a good fit for Wild West stories, you know. But these are the origin stories of John Cooper, which I said this is a prequel to. So obviously, in the first two Desperado games, John Cooper is still the protagonist in that. So this kind of like introduces you to John, but it also introduces you, as you've seen here. I've just met one of my first Desperado buddies, Doc McCoy. Don't confuse that with Star Trek. Doc McCoy actually has a medical bag, so what he can do with that medical bag, he can basically throw that into an enemy's pathway, and it releases sort of like a nerve gas, which kind of like basically disables an enemy and, like, you know, blinds them temporarily and kind of confuses them, and then what you can do then, you can obviously sneak up and get the advantage. Now I'm going to admit there's something up right here. This didn't quite go to plan, but I think this gives you a good example of what happens when things don't go exactly your way in Desperados 3, and that will happen a lot, but you can still sometimes just about get your way through situations. And I will admit there's a couple of times in this playthrough where things did not go my way, but we do get there in the end. But yeah, so you can see the enemy was a bit stabilized there. He's still a bit confused, so he's looking out over the ridge. So now I'm going to have to try and find a way to be a bit daring here.
Gashes, fractures, bullet wounds.
Ooh, this is going to see what I mean there about the line of sight. So the enemy has seen something there in the line of sight, didn't quite catch me, but I was still able to kill this guy, and he spotted me. So now I'm going to have to be very careful, hide. So he's gone straight to his buddy there. So this is my window. See what I mean? That didn't quite go to plan because I was spotted when I was in the middle of the kill. Something else you also have to remember as well, you've seen here I'm carrying the body and you can place it into the hedges or the bushes. It's really important to do that because obviously, as you've just seen, and if you spot his comrade, you know something's up. So it's best to hide them if possible, and then you can obviously then continue progressing through the game as well. But that's a really effective, shows you the differences between both John and Doc here, is that Doc obviously, you know, he's got his medicine bag. You're about to see as well, he has another really cool element to his arsenal, which is definitely separates it from John. So basically what John has here, what Doc has here, he has like a sniper, kind of like a gun basically. So what you can, with a scope to it, so what you can do is that you can long range kill some enemies with Doc's sniper scope, which is really powerful. Again, though, it does create some noise, so you're going to have to be very careful with with using it sparingly.
Oh, I won't miss.
So I've entered showdown mode here. I'm going to aim and let's line it up. And here we go. Press the button.
Just what I had.
Action. Bang. Insta kill.
Damn.
So you can see there's a long range shot. John wouldn't be able to do that. His pistols can only go within the immediate range. So it's always good to have, each Desperado has their own abilities which are going to be useful to the other, and you will need both to use both abilities to survive. The other interesting thing as well is with showdown mode, you can actually use both combined characters together, so you can actually double up on actions. So you could have Doc go for one guy on the left, go for John to have one guy on the right, and then you can basically then set that action go, and then you can actually execute that action, and then both characters will go and take on their respective enemies. And you can even do it so that they then put the bodies into the bushes, so you can remove that straight away, so you can do it in one seamless flow in action without you having to control it, which I think is brilliant. That just it comes across so seamlessly. So this is the other part that didn't go quite so well. Well, there were many parts in this level for me that didn't go so well, but this is the only one you're going to see. So this is quite a clustered area. There's a lot of enemies here. You can see this guy in front of us here. He's got a moving cone. So you can see there the sort of the lines. If you see the lines in the cone, that actually means he can't see us when we're in those lines. And also when we're concealed in the bushes, he can't see us as well. And again, so I've used Doc's medicine bag there to distract him. But The difficulty that I didn't anticipate is I have another guy coming around the corner here who's literally looking to get a piece of the action. So this guy is obviously interested to see who the hell's thrown this bag at him. So I've stabbed him and yep, the alarm bells are ringing. So now everybody is coming for me. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of recruits now. So I'm going to have to use a mix of abilities here. So I've thrown a knife at that guy. But obviously then I can't get that back. So that knife is now gone. So I'm going to have to use my gun, and of course that's alerted even more people to my presence. So yeah, it's going to get a bit frantic over here in a minute. And because I haven't had the opportunity to hide the bodies, they know exactly what's coming. So I've used slow down mode here, and I'm trying to decide how best to approach this now. So I've slowed it down, I've fired one bullet, fired another. Double shot, excellent, but there's still more to come. So this is not working out too well for me, but this is what happens when Desperado does not go your way, and this happens more often than you think. Oh, now it looks like I've run out of bullets, so that's really not helped. So I've knocked him out. Someone knows I'm there, so I'm about halfway dead. Oh, this is going to be so tight. Ooh. It's not good. This is really, really tight now. So you can see I'm in a really precarious position. Not sure I'm going to make it. So I knocked him out. Okay, so you can see there as well, they got stars over their head. You can see how much of a mess that was. So you can see they've got stars over their head. So what you do, you can actually tie them up. So because if you don't tie them up, when they'll immediately get back to their senses again, and then they'll come back and attack you. So you have to make sure they're tied up, and then once they are tied up, then as you can see, they're actually as luck would have it, they were already hidden in the bushes, so I don't even have to do that. But yeah, so you have to hog tie them up, and then when they are, then obviously then you can you can move them around and get yourself through. But yeah, you can see that was a real mess, and there were multiple messes on my first playthrough, I will admit, playing this through, but you're not going to see many more of those now because I have to speed through, because there's still quite a chunk of this level left. So but it just gives you an idea of how situations can go very, very wrong in Desperados 3, and sometimes you have to kind of in order to survive, I guess, just try and use the things you've learned and hope for the best, and that was pretty much that situation, learning for the best. So as you can see now, we're reaching the top of the train. So what I basically need to do now, I need to see that big bunch of debris there. I actually need to remove that debris so the train can pass through freely. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to climb up above that and destroy that with some dynamite, which we're going to see in a moment. So I'm going to use Don McCoy's sniper rifle. Boom, excellent shot. So that's that gone, and then there's another guy down there who I think we're going to have to get rid of as well. So we use a jump kill, very satisfying, but he's pretty much out of the way, so I don't think we really need to move him, so we'll just leave him there. So the interesting thing about this as well is that there are multiple ways you can approach this. So on the right hand side, there's a more of an open space where you can walk through, and then you'll come across the guy who's basically stood next to a cattle. So you could go that way, but I'm going to go the sneaky way and to be honest, it's after multiple tries. But I'm going to go the sneaky way, climb the ladders on the left hand side. So you can see there's a guy I mentioned there. You walk into the open space, he's like leaning against the cattle ranch there. There's another guy just by the camp, and the person we need to get rid of is actually right at the center there. So I can see I've gone straight for the insta-kill approach there, but I've been spotted almost straight away, and look at that, gunshot, insta-kill. So you can see again, that's another failure of a mission. So as you can see there, I'm going to have to change my approach up even more as well. So again, I think this is the thing about Desperado. The thing you need to bear in mind is that you will constantly need to adjust your strategies, and you're not going to get it right the first time. People rarely do. But I think that's the great thing about this game, is that you really do have to keep experimenting to try and find different approaches. And when those approaches do come off, they are incredibly satisfying. So so you can see that's his line of sight. So I've put that on so I can see where he's going to, how far he can see and where I need to go, basically. So what I've decided to do this time, I'm going to basically get Doc to use his bag to bring him my way. So what I'm basically trying to do is get that guy out of the line of sight of the guy next to the cattle ranch there, so that whenever I do take this guy out, he's not going to see it, and then I can sneak up on him as well. So he's immediately seen that bag, the medicine bag, so he's going to come straight for that. Now, it's worth bearing in mind as well, there are some enemies that you come across that are not going to be distracted by medicine bags. They're the ones who are wearing the ponchos, basically. So they actually will, it'll take a lot more for you to get them to come towards you. There are obviously the typical grunts who will just be immediately distracted by that kind of thing, so you have to really play it differently in each situation. And bear in mind the type of enemy that you're coming up against, which again comes back to my point of saying you really need to study your enemies in order to figure out what's what. So now that I've found this guy, I'm going to use a throwing knife on him, just get right in position, and look at that. So now, all of a sudden, she is completely exposed either side. So there's people who are looking after her either way. She's completely open now, I can do whatever I want, I can sneak up on her, take it out. And yeah, so now I can approach this much differently. But that took several different playthroughs to really figure out the best approach for that. But once I did, obviously you can see how seamless that was, and it just worked out really, really well. And so now I can take her out. And now I've got access to the dynamite, so now I can open up the bridge here, which is going to lead us right towards near the end of the level now. But you've got a nice little section at the end, which is really quite fun, I think. So I'll show you that in just a moment. But I think there's really I like the diversity of this opening level. And again, the second level is really quite interesting as well. So you have to take on multiple different targets. And then the game just keeps progressively getting more interesting. So I kind of failed that first throw. This time, not so much. So now I've opened I've removed the blockage, and now I've got access to the dynamites because I've got incoming that want to know what the hell's going on. So so now I have to. I'm actually going to throw the dynamite at them, which is incredibly satisfying. This is so much fun. So yeah, you can see they're all alerted. They're coming for me. So I'm just throwing the dynamite, and they're not. Oh, that was a bit of a miss. But this guy probably, I'm going to have to, oh, not quite. I'm probably going to have to shoot him out, I think. Oh, that was good. That was a good shot. So we've got another guy coming up on our right here. So, just going to take him out with showdown mode. Bang. There we go. And I think, no, there's more coming. There is another guy coming. I think that's what I really liked about Desperados 3 is the layouts of each level is structured in such a way that there's a few approaches you can try to fulfill your objectives, and obviously the showdown mode is quite a nice way to you can play the entire game in a slow down way, so you can just work your way through each section gradually, or you could just play in the full dynamic style of play that there's available to you. I mean, like, you basically use the left stick to control your character, the right stick moves the camera in whichever way you want to, and you've got access to all the abilities without actually slowing down the game once. But I think the showdown mode really kind of adds that level of satisfaction, also adds that level of being able to figure out exactly what you need to do and be able to think about your time scales, because there is no time limit to any of this, which I think is also a great idea, is that you can take your time to really figure out the best way forward. And I say there's different characters have got different abilities all the way through. So like there's one guy who has a bear snare trap, which actually you can whistle and get cowboys to come towards the bear snare trap, and then they get caught in that and snared up. There's another character that actually disguises other characters so she can get past certain scenarios and distract enemies. So there's a lot of different ways that these Desperados can influence the gameplay. So you're going to see my my reward screen and see how well I did or didn't do, which wasn't particularly great. But I think what's really clever about all of this is that and there are sort of mini in-game, in-level achievements as well. Now this I love. So this basically shows my entire pathway through this level. So this comes at the end, and you can fast forward for it if you want to, but basically you can see what my route was through this level, what I did, who I killed, what I picked up, how I played, how many times I died in the particular section, who did what. It's brilliant. Just you can sort of see it all sort of flowing out together, and you can also see how big the level is. I mean, it's a big train, so that's why I had to cut quite a bit of this video to the level to show, because it was over about half an hour in total. But I just kind of wanted to give you a feel for how this plays, and I think this first level, even though I was getting very frustrated probably about the first third of it, I think once I started getting into the second and third, I was really into it. And I think that's the thing about Desperados 3. There is a tough learning curve in this. It's not going to hold your hand. It does basically tell you what you need to do, but you will really need to figure yourself out. But yeah, that's going to do it for Desperados 3. Hope you enjoyed this video. To give you a look at the first level, my painful playthrough, which wasn't always the most smooth and seamless. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Do leave a like and a comment if you did, and let us know how your strategies are. And be sure to subscribe for future videos as they come onto the channel. See you for the next one.